So how are you, Leonie?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Still alive, as you see. It's
Yeah.
the most positive thing ever can happen. You wake up, you're here. Any other ways will kill me. So today we are with Leonie here. Leonie is a voice-over actress, as well as motion capture actress. You play as well as actress, isn't it?
Yeah, like screen stage is where I originally came from, and then at some point started specializing more in the voice world.
So before we go to the voice world and all this place, you come from Germany to UK. How it's happened? Why?
Yeah, I moved 10 years ago, actually. This year is my 10-year anniversary in September.
It's a big party.
Yeah, I know. I came here to attend drama school because I actually had a different career before that. I worked in marketing back in Germany, and I really wanted my whole life to be an actor, but did the safe option first.
Yeah, I know the problem.
Yeah.
I've been architect
Oh,
before
interesting.
director.
Oh, wow, yeah. A lot of us kind of had squiggly careers, didn't we?
It was my parents' choice.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna talk about it much. My
No,
parents
I
will kill me.
know. I know, it can be. For me, it wasn't actually my parents so much. It was really me kind of just being a little bit scared, I think. But after working in marketing for 3 years, I said, who am I kidding? I want to give this a go. And I was 27 at the time. And in Germany, all of the courses and degrees were 3 years. And I didn't want to graduate at 30. So I was looking for different options and found a kind of 1 year intensive full-time program in London and said, well, I can do that. And then I have some kind of certificate in my hand that I have some training, and then I'll go from there. So I moved to London, did this 1 year course, and 9 years later, I'm still here.
Do you like London?
Yeah, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it, as
Yeah,
I think
I know
everybody
that.
does. Everybody does. It's great, obviously, for the field that we work in. Most of the opportunities, most of the contacts, the networking, all of that is happening here, right? So it does make sense, but also, obviously, it's very expensive.
Funny is, lots of actors I know, they just moved to the outside ring of London, like to walking. Like Gareth, the actor I work with on my movie, he just sold the flat here and just saw I'm moving.
Yeah. We were looking at that as well, actually, during the pandemic, because it's so expensive here. But because rent prices have gone up so much, it doesn't actually make sense really right now.
You have to be very, very well in your profession to live in London.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
a strange place.
Yeah, but also it's so, like, I feel like the vibe being so artistic kind of fuels the creativity as well. Being able to just pop on the tube and go into town and see a West End show if I want to spontaneously is just such a beautiful thing as well.
Oh, that's true. So you did use your 1 year course. What was your first acting after it? Because I believe during the course you was doing some shorts or stuff like that. Everyone does.
Yeah, well, actually, so my original training, the course that I did was in musical theatre.
Okay.
So that was the original plan. But then very quickly after I graduated, I kind of immediately branched out into screen acting. Because I said I don't want to limit myself to just stage and musical theatre. So I went on, at the time it was called Casting Call Pro, wasn't it? Which is now Mandy. And just applied to everything. Like I would spend 2 hours a day applying to every single casting that was even remotely suitable for me. And so I think the first job I got then was must have been a student film. I think it was a student film for a student who was at the University of Kingston at the time. She was doing her final project, and I played like a spy, and I was like kicking ass and doing like screen combat and stuff. It was really cool.
Did you prepare yourself to screen combat? Did you have any training?
Yeah, we did have some stage combat training in drama school, and luckily I was playing opposite the other actor who was playing my kind of villain of the story. He did like jiu-jitsu, and so he was choreographing all of the fight scenes and teaching me the moves and stuff, and so it actually ended up looking pretty good.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So when it became professional,
I mean,
I know this process is you don't have one line. From tomorrow I'm professional. Yesterday I wasn't. So, but when it become like your mainly work to be actress.
Yeah, it was actually, I was really fortunate straight out of drama school to not be out of work for very long ever. Even most of the student projects that I did were paid.
That's something.
Yeah.
Most of the students project I did, it was I paid to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
To help them.
Exactly.
I just help them.
Yeah. I very quickly then ended up booking a theatre tour, and then I got myself a job on a cruise ship as a singer. And then from that, when I came back, I signed with an agent who then ended up getting me some good theatre work. I worked at Disneyland Paris for a Christmas season as a singer.
Oh, wow.
And so I was really fortunate for a long time that I immediately kind of was able to sort of make a living from it. And then there was a bit of a dry spell at some point where I was working 7 jobs at the time. I kid you not.
That's
7 different jobs.
A lot.
Yeah. And it didn't feel very like I was a professional actor at the time. It felt like I was a professional barista / promo girl / barmaid / whatever I was doing to make ends meet. And then the voice work started happening. And that's when I was able to make a living from that at some point, and then kind of transitioned into that. So there was only, like I want to say like a couple of years where I wasn't making a living from the arts.
So the voice started happening. I mean, you started with voiceovers and motion capture as well, or?
The motion capture actually came much later. I started with just voice work, which my acting agent at the time was getting me because of my languages. Because I speak fluent German and French as well as English. He was getting me crowd ADR jobs. Where, you know, a TV show where one episode is set in Berlin, one episode is set in Paris.
And you can do both of those characters and
Exactly.
everything in every language. Every language they wish.
Yeah, exactly. So I would be doing the background chatter, which actually I did a crowd ADR session just now on Friday, and I do them fairly frequently, especially for the productions that are happening sort of in different countries. And that's when I started doing these types of jobs and thinking like, oh, wait a second, these are fun and really well paid. I should look more into this. And then it kind of went from there that I started doing more and more voice work, then signed with a specific voice agent and started doing that more and more. And then the mocap actually only came in about a couple of years ago, when I kind of started getting interested in that and doing workshops and things in that field.
So if you have to choose acting, mocap, voiceover, what will be your first choice?
They're all the same thing, really.
It's not.
It doesn't count, damn it.
You have 3, you can choose, one of them.
I mean, voice acting.
Voice acting.
Yeah, that's what I do now. That's my full-time work. Because voiceover, I don't really make a distinction between voiceover for commercial or corporate work and voice acting for video games or animation. For me, they're all the same thing. I approach everything as a character.
So is it hard to modulate your voice, to just put all the emotion? Because in many situations, you don't replace the character. Like in commercials, you are the voice on the background, right? So, but you have to sell the product. You have to sell by emotion. Is it hard? Like, I can't do that.
Yeah. It's interesting because, when you work in this field, you often get messages from people saying, hey, I've been told by friends that I have a great voice. I should get into voiceover. How do I do that? And those people we always have to tell that voice acting comes with a small V and a big A. It's more about the acting than it is about the voice. And that doesn't matter what genre of voice acting it is. For a commercial, it's exactly the same thing. You have to act the part of someone who's excited about this product that they're selling, in a way, right?
Or just being exciting about the product.
Yeah, you have to still kind of make a connection to the text and make a connection to the audience that you're selling the product to. Even if it's just a one-line slogan, you still have to somehow make a connection to it. And that's nothing different from acting and making a connection to dialogue.
And how did you find yourself in Assassin's Creed? Sorry, I'm just jumping.
Yeah, sure.
But that's the thing I wanted to ask you before we start recording. Guys, I was just keeping that
It's like,
in my head. No, I'm not
when
gonna
can I
ask.
talk about
Not gonna ask.
Assassin's
You know, I love the games, and Assassin's Creed is amazing. So that's why I was like, yes. When I received your phone number from Simon, I was thinking like, okay, we'll see what she did. I'm going through that. I see Assassin's Creed. I said, okay, need to book it.
Yes.
So how you found yourself there? How it's happened?
How did I find myself in
Yeah.
the job? I got an audition through my agent, and obviously because in the in especially the gaming world, everything is very secretive and lots of NDAs everywhere. I didn't know what the audition was for. There were code names. They changed the names of the characters. So all I knew was I'm auditioning for this
Game.
Viking warrior princess. That's all I knew, and also fairly unusual actually. I was sent actual scenes so I could see the actual dialogue, which is fairly unusual for a video game audition because mostly what you tend to get in video game auditions is just individual lines. So I had an actual dialogue that I could work with, which was nice. And so I just sent in my original tape, and then I got a recall. I was working with the director on Zoom. Trying to remember if it was 1 or 2 recalls. It's quite a while ago now. It was back in 2020. But I think it might have been 3 rounds. And by the end of it, when I kind of, I had done a lot of research into what this potentially could be, even though I still hadn't been told. It's like, I'm pretty sure this is Assassin's Creed. I was like, I can't really think of another sort of Viking-y game that would sort of fit with what I'm doing here. And then I booked the job, and it wasn't until I actually ended up in the studio recording on the day that I was actually told, this is Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Wow. And how was the recording in studio? How was prepared? Is it different than normal way you working, or?
It was actually my first big video game role. I'd done a couple of smaller little NPC situations, voicing a few lines here and there, but this was the first substantial character. And I was working at Side in London, who are a big kind of audio outsource. Let's try that again. Game audio outsourcer. And the voice director was in Canada, and we had the writer from Ubisoft in Canada as well, and they were all I just had them in my cans. And obviously the interesting thing with video game narrative and video game acting is that it's not linear. You're not acting a scene from A to B. You're having to do 2 or 3 takes of each line, and then you're listening to the director reading in the next line, and then you're doing 2 or 3 takes of that line, and then you're doing that, and then it's like, okay, now if the player selects this option, the scene goes this way. Now if the player selects this option, the scene goes that way.
So you play the same scene several times with a different outcome.
Exactly, yeah. And you still have to make it all sound fresh and believable. And also then oftentimes the narrative tree will kind of do this, but then it will all end up back here again. So all of these branches then still have to match up with what's happening afterwards. So it's a very different way of acting.
Yeah, I know a couple of game developers and one game director, and that's hard work. Like on set, on process of writing for a movie, it's different than writing for the game. In the game, they have to go so many different scenarios. In normal script, I'm put direction which scenario we're going with, which I think will be the most interesting for me as a writer. But in the game, there's so many different scenarios, and is it sometimes hard to, I believe, to play change the mood, because in different scenarios you are in completely different positions. So change the mood have to be is it switch or?
Yeah, you kind of have to be really good at just sort of doing it on the spot and sight reading everything as well, because you don't get sent scripts in advance, again, because of NDAs. So you're seeing those lines for the very first time as you're stood in the booth. So you don't get to learn them. You don't get to, prepare your character. Like, your character you can prepare, but not the actual moment. And oftentimes you don't have the other actor's lines to act off either, because they might have not been recorded yet. So you're listening to the director reading it in, and the director might act or not. So
Mostly or not.
Mostly or not, yeah. Sometimes you have directors who are like
I
giving
know.
it, and then sometimes you have people who just like absolutely flatly reading in the lines, which, you know, there's obviously not one or the other way is better, but it's just...
I thought that in big productions like that, they will at least hire like student actor just to give you the lines, nothing like that.
No, not really. No. If there is a dialogue scene where one of the actors has already recorded their lines, and then the second actor comes in,
They give you the lines.
they will be playing you the lines. But if you're the first one to go, then you know you're doing it by yourself.
So the other person will be happy because we'll have your lines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think, like, for me, I kind of come from a Meisner-y acting background, and obviously the definition of acting in the Meisner sense is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. And for me, the voice acting really is the pinnacle of that. The circumstances could not be any more imaginary, because you haven't got your acting partner, you haven't got any props, you haven't got any set, you haven't got a costume, you're just stood in a box in front of a microphone, in front of a screen, reading those lines, and you're having to make it sound and feel like as if you were on a stage with your actors and your props and your costume. And so it's quite the challenge.
Oh, I believe it is challenge. So which of your jobs project is your favorite so far?
Oh, God, I'm going to do
They're gonna hear it.
No, I know. I'm going to do the wanky voice actor thing where it's a project that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Okay, so which is the second favorite?
Yeah, so the actual favorite is something that's coming out later this year. So, and
you cannot talk about it.
I'm still not allowed to talk about it, but I cannot wait to be able to talk about it because I had so much fun on it. But
okay, once you can...
the second favorite that I am allowed to talk about... I want to say it was Assassin's Creed, because it was because it was like the first, you know, you never forget your first. Like, it was just like, so big and so early on in my career as well, to have such a huge thing on my CV, to be nominated for an award for it, and to just have this like incredible franchise on my CV.
All good feedbacks from it, and everything was as it should.
Yeah, I
That's
think so.
positive.
Yeah.
So about the project you cannot talk about. Mm-hmm. We're not gonna talk about it. Mm-hmm. But once you can talk about, just and we're gonna talk about.
Yes, I'll let you know. Shouldn't be too much longer.
So you've got this Assassin's Creed project. You do it all the voiceovers. You do it some acting here and there. And now in USA nobody's acting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you hear about that? Do you read it?
Of course. Yeah.
What do you think about all this strike? Because I read a lot about that, especially about the reasons why the strike is happening. Mm-hmm. And I'm not an actor by any meaning, but I kind of agree with most of the, not everything, but most of what actors demand, mm-hmm. Especially with AI. I'm a big fan of AI. I'm I love to innovations. I love to look into for it, but I think it is something which can help us and at the same time can screw us, especially mm-hmm. actors. Like, I don't want to watch AI generate acting. Mm-hmm. I want to watch actors. That's because that's what I like to see. I like to see people showing how they can act, how they can not pretend, they can become other characters. Mm-hmm. So, are you scared of AI in a voiceover?
I am, yeah. It's been such a weird time these past few months where it suddenly feels like it's just exploded, because it's sort of, it was sort of like lurking in the shadows for a while, and suddenly it just seems to be what everyone's talking about, and you hear these stories of voices being stolen and fan content being created with cloned voices
Yep.
and, you know, not necessarily
Best way for...
the good type of fan content. So it's definitely something that's been on my mind. And I'm kind of oscillating between these two sort of thoughts where I feel like in 10 years' time my job isn't going to exist, and it's fine. It's a phase. So it's like, I feel like it's something that we as actors, as voice artists, as directors, as writers, we all need to be aware of, right? And we need to kind of understand what's happening. But I also don't know whether it's helpful to panic about it. I think...
Like, when I start to be a little bit panic about it, it's not long time ago, I found Freddie Mercury singing Celine Dion song, The Heart Go On and whatever, the Titanic one. And it wasn't perfect, but if you think that it took someone to generate it like a few minutes, and the technology is going forward, next year it will be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And I think all of those things are exciting. And I think I'm not an anti-AI person at all. I think there's a lot of ways where AI, machine learning, can be really useful tools for us to do the things that we don't normally want to do. So to take all of those tedious, time-killing tasks that we don't have time for and do those for us. Great. What I get quite peeved at is this obsession with replacing artists, because there's been a lot of studies about the fact that if money was no object for people in general, most people would turn to art. If they didn't have to make ends meet, if they didn't have a mortgage to pay, if they didn't have children to take care of, they would be artists. So that's the thing that people want to be doing. So let's find AI to do all the other shit so people can create art. But why do we have to create AI that takes that away from people and that creates visual art, that creates music, that creates writing, that creates voice acting and acting?
I can explain you that, why it's like that.
It's profit, of course.
One is profit, but to be honest, if you can make software or machine which one will take all the crappy stuff, it will make much more money.
Yeah, of course. It's all. I know why they're doing it.
The problem is, it's easier to create software which one is replacing the art, because art is not physical. So art can exist in the internet. Art can, as a picture, sound, things like that. You cannot create AI which one will, I don't know, cook for you, because it's coming physical part of it.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. We are very good to create, as a humans, to create non-physical things like voice, picture, any kind of whatever you can imagine, texts,
music,
music, writing. But to create robot which one will cook for us, which one is as an engine have AI inside, it will be harder, because there's so many dangerous things happening. That what if the fire will be too big and everything they take burn? So to simulate that, it's much harder.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that art is easy. I'm just saying that the creators don't have to put their thoughts for the problems like that. If they screw with the song, they will do it again.
Yeah, of course.
If they screw with the cooking, there will be no food.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no.
So that's the main reason why they, as a first, they hitting the art.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, when you replace Celine Dion with Freddie Mercury, everyone want to hear it.
Absolutely.
Nobody will care if you will make a 5-star chef who can cook.
Yeah.
It will be like news for 5 seconds.
I know, yeah. No, for sure. And obviously there's a lot of excitement about it at the moment. People are excited, people want to test the boundaries, see what they can do with it, play around with it, and I think all of that is fine. What I'm worried about is, and what a lot of people are worried about, which is what a lot of the unions are trying to lobby government for, is that legislation can't catch up at the moment with what's happening in development.
Not gonna happen.
Well,
I can explain you why. It's very simple. The legislations are written by politicians. They saying that they have advisors, which they have, but these advisors have to be on their side in politics. They are not experts. I can agree with someone politically, but he can be or disagree. But this person is expert on this subject. That's why I should take word of this person as an important one. It doesn't work this way for politicians. You need to support these politicians the way they're thinking and the way the word they want to have it. So the legislations was writing by them. They are behind the technology for a few years already.
Yeah.
They are mostly people after 50s, 60s years old. They don't catch and they don't understand technology. Like, I'm over 40, and I love technology. I love to read it. That's why I'm keep it up. Most of my friends who are the same age, they already behind. They don't understand AI. They don't understand what opportunities it create. And they don't understand why it's so dangerous for so many people. They just don't care. They just don't get it.
Yeah.
So, because of that, whatever legislations will happen at the moment, it will be behind the technology. Technology will be always forward.
Yeah.
Till we will take as advisors this kid who works on it. We don't have to listen to their objections, but we have to listen to their knowledge.
Yeah.
And if we do that, the legislations will catch up.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why, it's important for the unions and the kind of associations, the people who are doing this type of work. Equity in the UK has a huge campaign going on at the moment called Stop AI Stealing the Show. And they actually managed to halt a proposal that was meant to go through Parliament that would allow data mining of anything and just be like, yeah, it's fine, it's all in the public domain, so you can just do it. And Equity actually managed to hold that and say, actually, if this goes through, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Nobody is going to have any control over any of their personal data or intellectual property. So, they are listening when people are making enough noise. And I think it's important that SAG-AFTRA are making the noise that they're currently making.
We need to make noise.
Exactly, because otherwise, we're just...
All the industry needs to make noise about that, because without it, there will be no fun.
Yeah.
Like, I know that people have at the moment fun that they can create put someone face to someone else's body or put their voices there, but I don't know if that will create all the emotions we've got when we watch a good movie. When it's well wrote, well acted, well shot. There's so many things happening there. I just don't think the technology, the AI, will catch up all these things. It will do many great things, especially with the game industry, help them develop all the movements and everything, but I just still, I don't know, maybe I'm old, but I want to have, this emotion, and I want to know that the actor play.
Yeah.
I want to know that the human is behind.
Yeah.
I will not buy ticket to cinema to watch AI doing things.
No.
But I will pay gladly to see actors.
Yeah.
That's how it works for me.
Yeah.
And I hope it will work like that for most of the people.
I know,
then we all will be okay.
You would hope so. To be fair, I'm actually quite... can you say heartened? You can say disheartened. Can you say heartened? I'm going to say it. I'm heartened by some of the comments I'm seeing on sort of social media. Obviously, there's a lot of people kind of where there's a bit of a backlash towards the SAG-AFTRA strike, kind of, saying, why are millionaires striking? We don't really understand that. The millionaires are the 1%.
Yeah.
But there's also, I saw an article saying that the filming of Deadpool had been paused.
Yes, it was.
And there was just overwhelming support in the comments, just saying, good, we need to make sure that these people are, getting what they're worth, and that the AI situation gets regulated and gets taken care of. Regulated, maybe not from a law standpoint, but from a standpoint where contracts for actors contain clauses that say you are not allowed to use my face and my voice and just do whatever you want with it.
That have to be law, because if that will not be law, the studios will say, okay, we can do it that way, and in 2-3 years they will just slowly back to that. So
Absolutely.
it have to be law.
Yeah.
And I understand that it will be fun to see actors who pass away again, in the movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or to see if someone like action see young Schwarzenegger as a Terminator again. But come on, we have so much choice of talent, young talent actors. Just give them their stage.
Yeah. You can actually, I think this type of stuff is going to be there and it's going to happen, and you can't put the toothpaste back into the tube. So, but what I feel like might potentially happen, and this might be a very optimistic point of view, is that this type of stuff happening actually increases the value of the real thing, where you've got all of your AI shit and then you've got your real stuff, and that actually makes people want to see that a little bit more, because you already see a bit of a trend happening in voiceover where oftentimes there will be like casting calls and they will specifically say, we want real humans for this. Don't even come at us with AI shit. Or voice actors being approached by companies saying, we had this voice by an AI. It's really bad. Can you please do it? And then you kind of, on the voice actor side, you sort of have the leverage to say, okay, well,
it will cost you.
It's going to cost you though, because then you're kind of then suddenly the power dynamic has shifted a little bit. Where it's like, see, you're trying to do this on the cheap. It's bad, so now you're going to have to pay proper for someone who does it properly.
I believe that especially with voiceover industry, AI can be very helpful. For example, for you, we're recording Assassin's Creed next generation, whatever it will be, and instead director read you the other lines, just put it for AI. Make it this way.
Yeah.
It will modulate bit voice. It will make voice they want, but it will give you something to play as an actress.
Yeah, for sure.
And I see this as a help. Of course, it's better if you've got the original actor record line, but as you said,
not always possible.
Not always possible.
Yeah.
So I don't think that AI have to disappear.
No.
It will not disappear. It will be with us from now on.
Yeah.
But find a way to coexist. Find a way which one will not kill all the artism in humans. Because what will happen if we put everything on AI? Then people don't want to really think about that. It will kill needs for humans to create.
Yeah.
Because why? There's AI.
Yeah.
And our all developing as a humans will be just stopped.
Yeah. But it's if you go back to the cave people, storytelling is one of the things that seems to be, an inherent part of who we are as humans. So why would we want to take that away?
Yeah, I don't understand this part either. Seriously.
And it's all just about profits. The only people who are having any kind of advantage out of that are the people who are making the money at the top, because they don't have to pay writers, they don't have to pay actors, they don't have to pay translators. So, it's all about money, and it's really quite sad.
I already read about story when they asked ChatGPT to wrote short script. It wasn't great, but what they did, then they give it to scriptwriter to correct it. So with script writing, the first draft is the most important one. That's where the biggest work it is.
Yeah.
If they can generate it something from AI and just give it to scriptwriters to correct it, it's like 70% of the budget gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, just don't feel well with it. It's not about money. It's just because the script writers will be worse and worse and worse because they will not creating. The only way to be good with something, to create something, is create it.
Yeah.
It's doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Creativity is a muscle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Exercise it, yeah.
But we are there. We have to go through it.
I know, yeah. Guess we have to.
Sorry, I hit you with the hammer of AI.
I know. Jesus Christ.
So what's next for you? So you do the project you cannot talk about. What direction you want to develop yourself?
Really good question. So back in 2020 was project video games. I said at the beginning of the year, I want to get into games more. And I did it. Did Assassin's Creed, did a few other indie projects in the meantime. I'm doing this project at the moment. I'm also working on another really fun indie project at the moment, which I'm so impressed. And I talk to everyone about this because it's a one-woman show. She's a studio called Lucky Labs, and it's just this one person who's writing, developing, creating everything herself. And it's a really fun game, and she managed to get some decent funding for it, so she can pay a voice director, proper voice actors, and I'm voicing the female player character. And it's been really, really fun to work on. I can talk about it. There's no NDAs. It's called Glam Pursuit. And it's really fun. Noise. It's really fun. So I'm hoping that there's going to be more of that as well. The more kind of she develops the game and potentially secures more funding, I'm sure there can be more of that. So that's been really...
Can I stop you for a second? Yeah. I've got something here. Need to check it.
Sure.
Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry, guys. That's my fault. If anything, blame me. Can you say anything?
Yeah.
Okay, you're still there. Ladies and gentlemen, we back. And it was my fault. Definitely it was my fault. I would use AI to put my voice nicely here.
Just stitch it back
Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. So you started saying about the projects.
Yes.
You're doing the one woman.
Exactly,
project.
Lucky Labs, the one woman project, and yeah, that one's been really fun, and I'm hoping that there might be more recording on that one. But apart from that, obviously the gaming stuff is kind of now sort of ticking over nicely. I'm getting a few jobs here and there. One of my big projects for this year is to try and get a foot in the door with animation work, so cartoons. I'm creating a new demo for that at the moment with a producer and a director in the US, and that's kind of for the second half of the year is going to be the big outreach to like producers and casting directors who work in that field, because I would really, really love to do more of that.
Oh, that's something I love. I'm a big fan of Japanese anime, and I watch always series in original in Japanese, and then English after.
Okay.
Follow, and just some of the English interpretations are very good. Some of them are
they certainly exist.
They exist, yes. And that's what I can tell about that.
Right.
So I believe that's that's the interesting kind of job. How it is acting for a cartoon? Is the same like for the game, or?
It depends. Obviously, not every game is the same and not every cartoon is the same. So there's crossover, and there are also some very different things in both. What I would say that gaming, obviously, in the last decade has become very cinematic and very truthful. Obviously, there's exceptions. There are also still the very high energy cartoony type, especially sort of JRPGs and stuff tend to still be quite high octane. But in general, I would say the gaming acting has become very grounded, whereas the cartoon world, grounded is not necessarily a word I would use. No, that's... Again, depending on what you're talking about. If you've got things like the adult animation, things like BoJack Horseman, Archer, all that type of thing is a little bit more rooted in truth, I guess, but still heightened. And what I find...
South Park, definitely not.
Yeah, exactly. What I tend to just kind of sort of when I'm teaching and coaching, I feel like the biggest difference for me in when it comes to animation and cartoon work is that it's usually meant to be funny. That's usually the goal, right?
Mostly.
Mostly trying to make people laugh. I'm not talking anime.
Generally about
but like
Western.
Yeah, Western cartoons and animations tend to be mostly be funny.
So, are you watching animations? Cartoons?
Yeah. I really like kind of adult animation. Like I'm a big fan of Archer, and I really like BoJack Horseman, Big Mouth. Also, really like the Great North. Do you know that one? It's
No, I don't know that one.
Set in Alaska. It's a bit, not many people know it, but it's very silly. And yeah, that type of work I would really, really love to do because I have quite sort of dry, sarcastic sense of humor, and those types of shows tend to fit that quite well.
I know that the two first one you mentioned, and they are sarcastic.
Yeah.
So, with animation, let's just jump back to the mocap. Mm-hmm. When you're acting there, because you're acting with the voice as well there.
It
we
depends.
don't see you with the... No, it depends. I thought
Yeah.
that you play there with sound and act.
Mm-hmm. So there's a difference between motion capture and performance capture. Motion capture tends to be just body.
Just body.
Yeah. So sometimes, you know, you're acting just a character's movements. Sometimes you are acting to already recorded voice and have to match what the voice is doing in your body.
So first is voice, then is captured.
Yeah, exactly.
So when he was capturing the Assassin's Creed, your voice was first.
That was no motion capture. Assassin's Creed.
But I'm just saying
Yeah.
you record voice, and then they
and
was
then
capturing.
if it was with motion capture, I would have gone and recorded my voice lines, and then someone else would have gone in and done the mocap for the character.
Okay, so it wasn't like that you watch scene on the screen and just...
No, that I didn't have any visuals when recording Assassin's Creed. I didn't even know what the character looked like. My friend is convinced that they modeled her after me because she says she looks so much like me, but I don't think that's the case. But yeah, and then you've got motion capture, which is usually just body, and then you have performance capture, which also captures the voice and sometimes even the facial expressions. You would have seen where people have all the dots on their faces as well with the camera rig in front of their faces. That would be performance capture, and that's what happens. What they did, for example, for The Last of Us, all of the cutscenes were performance capture.
Okay, so I did imagine that a little bit differently, because I really thought that it is like in cinema, when you record the sound, like to re-record the sound or do it some voiceover, you already watch the picture, you see the lip sync and everything, and just try to match it. So in this industry, you're saying that first is emotion from the sound, and they try to match it with the movement.
Yeah.
That's a better way.
Yeah. It's very rare that as a voice actor you do anything to picture unless you're dubbing. If you're creating a different language dub for something, then you'll be working to picture. But most of the time, the voice comes first.
Did you have to dubbing in any point, or did you dub?
Yeah, I do a bit of dubbing in German mainly, and sometimes into English as well. But most of the dubbing industry that's dubbing content into German is in Germany. So I'm not doing a lot of it, but there are a few studios here in London that offer dubbing services as well, and I do a bit of dubbing.
When you do it German, is your native tongue, did they say that your accent changed during the years?
No.
You're lucky.
I know, yeah. A lot of people say that, but because I work so much in German, and I do try to go home fairly frequently as well, because my family are home, and I've got a niece and nephew over there that I try to see as much as I can. So really, what I do find that when I go home, I have a stronger regional accent than I used to. I'm feeling maybe I'm like overcompensating. Like where I'm from, my original German accent is like could probably be sort of compared to like a Cockney-ish London type sound. And when I go back, I now have a stronger accent than I used to. My friends and family are like, "You sound more Cockney than you did before."
No, but I believe that it can be like that. You are the voice artist, so you can repeat accents.
Yeah, I have.
How good you are with repeating people accents?
I have a bit of a thing for accents. Always have my whole life. As a child, I would like imitate TV presenters who had different accents and stuff, like to entertain my friends. And I've always really enjoyed trying to get my mouth around accents. And I'm somewhat of like an accent chameleon, where if I'm like around someone for a while who speaks in a certain accent, I'll kind of start emulating it a little bit, which sometimes people get put off by that because they feel like I'm taking the piss, but I'm actually just like appreciating the way they speak. So I do enjoy accents. I think.
Are you able to speak with my accent, which is very crappy?
Oh.
Really not precise what exactly it is.
Yeah, your accent is a little bit all over the place, isn't it?
There is no accent there.
There is no accent there. Yeah, because your accent kind of, as you said earlier, like was mistaken for Spanish before.
It was.
Which
I don't understand why, because I even didn't live with Spanish people.
Yeah.
My accent, like I said, like we spoke before we started recording, is very strange. I'm Polish. I don't speak with Polish accent. There is a little bit Polish there. Some of people hear it, some of them don't. I've been mistaken with Spanish, Portuguese kind of accent, with the reasons I'm not able to really point. And it was by Spanish people.
I can hear it. And I think for me, as I say, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to accents, because what happens with the Spanish accent usually is that the consonants get really soft. A P becomes a B, a T becomes a D, and everything sort of sits very softly in the mouth. And everything kind of, there's not a lot of sort of, pronunciation going on when it comes to the consonants. And you do that as well. Your consonants are very soft. So I feel like there's a similarity there. And then the H, the kind of back of the mouth H situation that goes on, which is sort of Eastern European Russian,
Yes.
but also Spanish. So there's like a crossover there. So I can see it. And then you've got the dark hair, which makes people automatically assume that you're Southern European rather than Eastern European. So I feel like I can understand where the Spanish assumption comes from.
You see, that's how it works. You analyze me like AI.
I know. Yeah. I just love accents. I'm just always analyzing.
That's great. Because, like, for example, me, as a director and writer, that's what I mainly want to do it. Sometimes we're going with friends to some restaurant, coffee shop, whatever, and I see interesting person, man or woman, doesn't matter. But it's she or he looks differently, act differently, doing movements differently. So I start to observe them. I watch how they move. I create story why they are there, what's happened, why they move this way, what's happened in their life. But I basically, for someone from outside, I'm just staring on girl. Probably want to hit her, want to go to her and talk to her, and I have no courage to do it. The reality is, I just analyze because I like this character and I want this character used later on in my script or in my movie. But because of that, I just have to watch it, see how the person moves. Like.
Yeah.
And I believe that's the same for you with accents.
Absolutely. Accents and voices in general. I do the same thing. If I hear somebody's like who has an interesting voice, an interesting sound, does something interesting with their mouth when they talk, like a Drew Barrymore kind of out of the mouth kind of situation. Like these kinds of things, I find that really interesting. And I'll just be like kind of imitating it a bit and analyzing it in my head. And then I'll like go away and try to do the same thing. And then you sometimes create maybe not exactly that, but sometimes something that's also interesting and is just inspired by that. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna use that.
Did you ever have to use it that in real life, just to pretend that you are someone else? Change accents, in a situation like that. People like to do it, this kind of things if they can.
I have done this one time. Oh, that was such a
Yes, that's something we have to hear.
I absolutely shot myself in the foot with that. That was years ago. Home in Germany, still, 15 years ago. I was out in the club with my friends, and this dude came and wanted to talk to me, and I just couldn't be asked to talk to him. I didn't really want to make conversation, but I also didn't want to be rude. So I was like, I'm just going to pretend that I don't speak German very well. And at the time, my go-to accent that I knew I could do authentically was French.
And he was French.
No, he wasn't French, but evening out in the club, young girl speaking broken German in a French accent did not make the man want to talk to me any less.
Definitely, yeah, that's...
So I was like trying to do this whole, I'm sorry, I don't speak German very well. And he was like, oh, that's hot. And so he was just like, so I had a conversation with him for like a half an hour in like my broken German with my French accent until I finally found like a way to be like, oh, I'm going to go to the toilet or something.
Never back.
It's like, yeah, that was not a smart move.
Why you choose French?
Because it was my go-to. Like that was.
Everyone is saying that that's the language of love.
I know. I wasn't entirely sober at the time, so my
You can excuse
ability
that.
to make smart decisions was probably a little bit. But yeah, it's just to this day, it's like, wow, that was such a poor choice, Leonie.
Like me and my friends, we was playing with the languages a little bit, and we found out that whatever you say with a French accent, it sounds lovely.
Mm-hmm.
You can swear, you can say the worst things, and it's just with the accent, and it just sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, it's true.
Whatever you say with a Russian accent,
Immediately
it sounds dangerous.
Same in German. Everything automatically sounds aggressive.
Automatically, you just...
Yeah.
With German, it's funny because everyone knows that you guys have got long words there, like very, very long words.
Yeah.
And they are hard to repeat for everyone else.
Yeah.
So, but Russian, it makes like they try to, kill me soon. Me and my friends will come and kill you soon.
Yeah.
I want to buy 2 breads and butter.
Yeah, exactly. I love you so much.
Baby.
Oh, baby.
No, the Russian accent is something I can repeat quite easily because
of course
it's
it's
Eastern European, similar.
Yeah.
There's lots of similarity. I'm not good with accents, but with that one, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
So what's your favorite accent?
Interesting. This is the second podcast interview I'm doing and the second time I'm being asked this question, and it is French.
It's French.
Yeah. It's just because probably it's one of the first that I learned because when I was little, we would drive to Spain on holiday from Germany all the way to Spain because my mom was afraid of flying. So we would drive all the way through France. And I would always ask my dad to turn the radio on. Couldn't understand a word. I was 6 years old, but I just loved the sound of the language. So very early on, French kind of became something that I was very aware of. And then as soon as I could in school, I started learning it and lived in France for a while. So it's probably the accent that I feel the most comfortable with, and just I can just switch it on like that, and I really enjoy it because it feels really fun in the mouth to do as well.
So you've got favorite, which is French, and what is the less favorite? Have you been asked professionally, especially to, can you record this sentence with this kind of accent, please, and you hate it?
No, I don't think so, because the only accents that I tell people I can do are accents that I can do and enjoy doing. I would never, I've been working a little bit recently to try and get my Australian accent up to scratch, but because it's not quite there yet, I wouldn't ever put it on my CV and tell people I can do it. So I don't think I've ever been asked to record in an accent that I don't enjoy doing, because I just would tell them I can't do it.
But did you try accents which one you really cannot get it? They just don't sit there, you don't like them. I believe they are lovely people in these countries.
Yeah.
But it's about the accent.
An accent that I don't. No, I just really love any accent. I just think accents are so interesting, and there's not an accent that I'd be like, ooh, I don't like the sound of that, because they're all interesting in their own way, and if I could, I would learn them all.
Did you hear about the languages, how they change depend of the location? When I was in Poland, I was in a architectural school, but it was talking about the development of the cities and countries and all these things as well, because I was connected to planning and architecture, and they told us about it wasn't really experiment. It was what's happened is Polish language and Czech language. It was one language in the past, but these two groups was separated by mountains, and with time they start to develop a little bit different way. At the moment, for Polish people, Czech language is make fun from Polish, and same way for Czech people, with Polish language. We do understand what they're talking about, without listen very hard. Most you understand what it is about, not exactly details, and vice versa. And it takes like 200, 300 years to start to have these changes in language. Like we can see that between English American and English British. They just start to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
So how do you think, how long it will take before there will be two different languages between US and UK, or it will never happen because of the connection?
No, I don't think nowadays, because of like globalization and the internet and people moving around.
So
I
do
don't
you think they will go back?
Yeah, I think the way that languages developed hundreds and hundreds of years ago, where, you know, like the romantic languages developed out of Latin and all, that's because those people moved there and then that's where they were.
And they was romantic.
And there wasn't a lot of like influence from anywhere else, and so those languages had like a space to develop. But now, with the way that the world is working, I don't think that's gonna happen again. Accents shift because people move around, and there isn't like a pure London accent really anymore, because, you know, London is so multicultural and there are so many different people coming from all different areas, and accents are shifting and moving around. But languages, like, I don't think the English language in the UK and in the US are going to move away further from each other. If anything, I think they're going to move closer towards each other again.
Do you speak with Scottish accent?
Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm testing.
It's like you're in my head. It's one I'm working on at the moment. I've been doing some.
Have you been in Glasgow?
Yeah, that's Glasgow is actually the one I'm working on. Yeah, because there's an app called the Accent Kit. I don't know if you're aware of it.
No.
It's a really useful app for actors who are working on accents, where you like go through a list of different people, and it gives you like a 36-year-old female Glasgow, and then there's like recordings of her just chatting, there's recordings of her reading certain practice sentences, also just all of the different sounds, I, A, E, O, U, all that type of stuff, and you can like learn it from that. So I've been doing that kind of work, but I'm slipping into it almost, but I'm not going to do it because I can't do it yet. Oh, I can't do it yet.
You just say work in progress, and then you can say something, and people understand.
It's a work in progress. Oh, that makes me.
Oh, sorry.
That makes me cringe, but yeah, it's getting there.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, what other accents do you work on?
So we
have at the moment Scottish.
Yeah.
Earlier you said Australian.
Yeah.
Yes. So what else?
So I really, my kind of specialist area that I tend to mostly do is speak English in different European accents, rather than do the different English accents, because there's enough people who can do that, and like
they're native,
right? Like I'm not going to go in and say I can do an authentic Newcastle accent, because I can't, and there's enough people who are native from Newcastle. So what I tend to offer mostly is I can do English in a German accent, in a French accent, in a Dutch accent, in a Russian accent, in a, you know, that kind of stuff is mostly what I do. And like I can do like an American, like general American, and like a Southern American, and that type of stuff. But the Scottish really is, I'm working on that mainly for me, not so much for work. I'm not necessarily expecting working in it. It's just because I really like the accent, and I just really want to be able to do it.
When I come to UK, I first went to Scotland. I was living in Inverness for 8 months. And I had a friend there, like much older than me. The guy was from Glasgow. For first 3 months, I had no clue what he was talking about. Like, seriously. I love the guy, but I didn't understand what he was talking about. I was just sitting there, just
smile and nod. Yeah, I would say like a proper, like deep Glaswegian is, for me, out of all of the UK accents, probably the hardest one to understand. Which might be why I'm trying to learn it, because I find it so fascinating, because the vowels are all over the place and I love it.
No, seriously, I had so much trouble to listen to the guy. And because of that, I have no problem to understand accents, different accents in UK. I don't have big troubles to listen them.
Yeah.
I cannot repeat it.
Yeah.
But most situation I understand what people are talking about. But on the beginning, it was just nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
Wow, that was.
Talk about being thrown into the deep end.
Yeah. You start from a bad situation.
Yeah.
Everything else is, later on is easier.
Yeah, for sure.
So from the acting, do you plan back to acting as an actress, or you just want to focus on the voice?
Yeah, at the moment I'm really focusing on the voice. I left my theatrical agent at the beginning of the year because I just really want to focus and like put a lot of effort and energy into the voice acting at the moment. And it became difficult to coordinate diaries with my acting agent because I would constantly have to tell them I'm not available because I'm recording for a game. I'm not available because I'm going to a conference. And so at the moment, when it comes to acting, I'm self-represented. I still submit to things on Spotlight if I see something that I find interesting. I'm still working on little projects here and there. You know, if friends ask me to be in an indie film or whatever, I do that kind of thing. But I'm not represented at the moment and actively auditioning so much. But the industry isn't going anywhere. So who knows, maybe in a year's time, the bug
It can change.
comes back and I wanna get back on it, and I might look for a theatrical agent again. But I think if I did that, it would be focusing purely on screen acting. I don't know if I would go back to stage necessarily, just from a money point of view.
Yeah, the stage is not paid well.
No, and it's difficult because a long stage run, if I went and did a 6 months tour of something, it would take me out of the voice work for so long, for comparatively so little money, that I would then have to it would feel like I would sort of have to start from scratch again with the voice work.
Something people don't realize with stage acting is the show can run for a few years in theater, and actress or actor have to be on the show like minimum half year before it's replaced with the other one. Some actors just stay forever and play the same thing.
Yeah.
Every twice a week or something like that. I found it boring from the directing and acting point of view. After a few weeks playing the same thing, it just...
Yeah, that's an interesting thought as well, isn't it? Because I had that same thought where the West End shows, most of the contracts are a year, and you're doing 8 shows a week.
Oh yeah.
The same show every day, every night for a year. And I was thinking, does that work with my ADHD brain who needs constant new stimulation? But then I feel like it would be okay because on stage, like, really, every time you do it, it's different. Right?
It is different, but you're still working with the same kind of frame.
Yeah, I guess.
It's happened that something is go wrong and you have to act to cover it that people don't notice.
Yeah.
And that's, do you remember later on these situations, but you don't remember everything else. You just repeated the same, routine.
Yeah.
Till some moment you just put your hand there because someone have to give you something.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I guess it depends on the type of production that you're in. I would say maybe if you're in like one of the big musicals where it's really like a well-oiled machine and you stand here, you put your arm up on that note, that might be a bit different to maybe a play that maybe has a little bit more breath in it. Because I remember seeing Denise Gough in People, Places and Things back at the Wyndham Theatre in 2016, I think it was, and it changed everything I thought I knew about acting because I saw it twice. And it was so different both times. There were lines that one night she would shout, the next night she would whisper because she was so alive and so spontaneous in the role. And that felt really exciting to me. And the idea that you can...
But not every actor can do that.
No, exactly. So I guess it would depend on what sort of production you're in and how much freedom you have to make it different.
Yeah. When I was studying in Poland, I used to play on the stage. Mm-hmm. It was more about movement theater than traditional way of acting. Mm-hmm. So we had a show which one did quite well, and we go to some festivals. And after played 5th time, I was boring already.
Yeah.
And I found out that repeating myself is not something I want to really do it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Like, why I like movies. in movie you prepare to the scene, but you shoot scene once and it's done. And you go forward. You're looking for new situations, new things. When you're writing, you do it the same. You're moving forward with the story.
Yeah.
You can back change something, but you're going forward. Things changing. You stimulate.
Yeah.
You still create. When you start repeating, you stop creating. That's my thought.
Yeah. I think that's it's a valid view. I think for me potentially the adrenaline of it being live might aid that boredom, because with a film, you know, even you're shooting the same scene for 2 hours, you're saying the same lines, and if it goes wrong, you just cut and you do it again. There's not as much, like, the stakes aren't as high. Whereas on stage, you still have the adrenaline of, you know, I should probably not fuck this up right now. So maybe that's
And tomorrow I'm
counteracting
gonna
a
repeat
bit.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
At least that's how I think, and how I see that all the acting and all the, you know, creativity with the filmmaking. Probably voiceover is very similar on this with filmmaking, because you have to repeat the line till the director is happy with. Then
Yeah.
you're going forward.
Yeah, I would say actually, funnily enough, when we're looking at that sort of how high the stakes are as you're doing the job, they're probably the lowest when it comes to voice acting, because it's just you and the director, probably a sound engineer, maybe a writer on the line, but you can kind of take your time a little bit more depending on the project. If they're like super tight on time, maybe not so much. But on a film set, you know, you've got everyone there, and like you've got the gaffers are waiting, and they're all just like kind of
Lots of distractions.
You just like need to get on with it. And as an actor, if you keep getting it wrong, you're like, oh shit, I'm like wasting everybody's time. Whereas in the booth, it's a bit more relaxed, because there's such a small group of people, and you're kind of just working together to make it work until it's fine. I feel like that's a bit less stressful sometimes.
Like in the final of the movie I did, Fighter, we had 250 extras.
Wow.
Plus actors, plus crew, plus everyone else. And any crew line cost lots of money and lots of pressure on actors.
Yeah, of course.
And it takes, you know, skills just to cut yourself out of this world or of this, you know, everyone watch you, and it's not theater.
Yeah.
You see the public there.
Yeah, exactly.
You see all these extras, all the crew, and you have to be romantic.
Yeah.
Or you have to do something else. That's hard.
It's true. It can be very challenging, and I think that's something that I love about the voice acting as well. There's a level of self-consciousness is removed when you're not, your body and your face aren't in the equation, because, you know, let's face it, even the best trained actor still sometimes might think that, oh, I just did something weird with my face, or I don't know what to do with my hands. You know, there's always moments like that, and in the booth that doesn't matter. All that matters is your voice, and you can look and do whatever you want and pull weird faces, and nobody cares.
And probably that's even help you.
Yeah, exactly. I actually recently I recorded myself just to create some social media content, which I've been trying to get better at. And I was recording a game job, which was very emotional. It's a really, really emotional scene. And I was like, oh, this is going to make some great BTS footage. I can record myself while I'm, you know, doing this, and I can post like the BTS video of this. And I did the whole thing, and then I watched the video back, and I was like, nobody is ever going to see this footage. I was ugly crying to the max. I was like, this is never going to see the light of day. And I probably wouldn't have done that if this was a camera job, because I just completely let myself go and wasn't worrying about what I looked like.
Like in my movie, I had one voice actor who was mainly voice actor, but as well as actor, young man. And when we was preparing, I saw it him reading the lines. Like it was just me, him, and two other actors. So he was like, you know, very comfortable situation for actors. Everyone knows each other. What he did with his face, I was just praying he would not repeat that during the shooting. But then I found that he's voice actor as well, and his approach was always put the voice, and once he find the voice, follow with the acting. He said that that because that's the approach. My understanding now from the conversation with you, that's the approach of all your work, isn't it? No,
It
I'm wrong.
depends. Yeah, it depends. I think there's people who do it one way, there's people who do it the other way. I wouldn't necessarily say I find the voice and then the acting follows. I think for me, it's actually the other way around. I find the character, and yes, obviously, if there are instructions as to what their voice sounds like, if it tells me she needs to have a gravelly voice or she needs to have this type of accent, then, I have to follow those kind of specs. But then it usually happens that I find the emotion and the connection to the text, and then the voice does that. So I wouldn't necessarily say like I'm not the kind of actor who says, right, I'm going to make this voice this and this and this and this, and now I'm going to put the lines on top of that. It's the other way around.
What he did was, when he was reading the line, he was like overacting everything. Like his movements was huge. And,
Right.
But then he cut this, but he kept the sound he had there, which one he liked it. At least that was his way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I definitely gesticulate a lot when I'm voice acting. I need a lot of freedom of movement around me when I'm doing it.
So you cannot have small booth studio. You need to have space.
You need to have a bit of space for sure, yeah. Which I wouldn't be able to do that in a camera context.
No,
yeah.
that's different. There you have to be in line. They have to be in the space, in the frame.
And that's what I like about mocap and PCAP as well, because you have that freedom. Because this camera's 360, you haven't got a frame that you need to adhere to. You can just be free and move, and you're being tracked wherever you are.
So which your job was the harder ever you did, and you're proud that you did it?
I did I played 2 different characters in a game that's about to come out sometime soon.
The one you cannot talk about.
No, this I can talk about. It's called Hell Breach Vegas, and it's a first-person shooter game. The demons are coming to Earth in Sin City, and you have to shoot them basically. And I voiced
very complicated.
Basically, yeah. But it's really cool, and it's very sort of reminiscent of sort of retro shooter games. It looks really great. And I voiced 2 different characters in that, 2 options for the player, one British female, one American female, and because it's a shooter game and a battle game, it was incredibly high octane voicing. I was just screaming and shouting the whole time. I recorded this here, and my neighbor actually knocked on the door to check if I was all right. Because I'd forgotten to tell her, and she was like stood in front of the door with the phone in hand, just like, "Are you okay? Do I need to call the police?"
I already called police. They will be here soon.
I was like,
Don't worry.
I should probably have told my neighbors what I do for a living. But that one, I was really proud. Once I had done this, and it wasn't live directed either. I'd recorded all of it in my own time, sent it all off to the developer, and he was really happy with it. He said, "Wow, I don't need any pickups from you. This is great." And
So
it was very...
You're recording everything at home.
Yeah.
So you create your own small studio at home.
Yeah, I have a studio here. Yeah, it's I actually recently purchased a proper like custom-made booth. Before that, I had like a self-made DIY space, which sounded great, but it wasn't sound isolated. So everything I did in it, everyone could hear. So that's why the neighbor knocked on the door. Now the booth that I have is a bit more...
so you can close yourself and
I can
shout.
shut the door, I can scream and shout.
Whenever you are angry, you're going there, close the doors.
Exactly, yeah, I just go in there and scream.
Going out
for a
happy.
bit. Yeah, basically, yeah.
That's cool. So often you are asked to record at home on your own studio.
Yeah,
So-
I record a lot from home actually. Games, not so much. Mostly like smaller indie productions I'll be recording from home because they don't have the budget to hire out a big studio. The larger productions, it will always be done in studio at one of the outsources.
So kind of selling point of view is I can record that on my own.
Yeah, it depends. Like, most productions now work with voice directors, which is great. Because you wouldn't shoot a film without a director, so why would you record a game without a director?
They can.
But then,
I saw the situations.
Yeah, exactly. So the trend really is going, even for indie productions, more towards hiring voice directors. But then sometimes on the really small productions where they just haven't got the budget, either the dev themselves might be directing you, or like in this case for Hellbreach Vegas, they just send you the lines, you self-direct, you just record it in your own time, and then you send it back to them, and then they might just say, oh, actually on this line, can you stress this a bit more, or can you give me a couple of options on this, or whatever. So it tends to depend on the budget of the production.
Basically, you like this job.
I really love this job, yeah.
It's amazing. So I think we wrap up for today.
Okay.
Thank you very much for being here. It
Thanks
was
for
a
having
pleasure.
me.
Once the magic project, which one will happen soon, will be released, or you'll be able to talk about that. We can do it again if you wish.
Yeah, sure. I'll let you know.
It will be amazing. Mm-hmm. So today with me was Leonie.
Lazy.
Lazy.
Well,
no, I'm
sometimes.
lazy. That's my And yeah, we're done for today.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This was fun.